You're listening to the Bear Down Chicago podcast with Logan Bradley, Ryan Dangle, Patrick Sheldon, Brendan Shagrew, and Jack Wright. The Bear Down Chicago podcast. Yeah, we're that Bears podcast.
All right, folks, welcome into a very special edition of the Bear Down Chicago podcast. I am your host, Ryan Dangle, and I am joined by the one, the only, Jack Wright. Now, if you want to find me on Twitter, you can hit me at Ryan Dangle. That's Dengel. If you want to find Jack on Twitter, it's at Bear Down Jack. We should have some other dudes joining us at some point, so we'll see. But we're excited to talk to all of you. Already seeing that we got a couple of people in the room. So Lucas, Connor, Eric, it's awesome to have you guys with us. Thank you so much. Jack, let's talk. The Bears got a tackle. They got a really good tackle, one that I am very, very excited about. Hit me up with your thoughts on Darnell Wright, offensive tackle out of Tennessee.
I'm pleased to see that we went offensive line right out of the gate. I don't think that there was any doubt in anyone's mind that the most needed area for the Chicago Bears at this point was the offensive line. Now, you could make debates about defensive tackle or corner without a doubt, but if you're going to decide to go with Justin Fields as your franchise quarterback, as the Chicago Bears have done, and they're going to put their faith in Justin Fields going forward, then it's been said by every media outlet at every level, even down to, to the lowest, talking like with your friends in the next to the water cooler, right? Like, the Bears needed offensive line. So I think if you look at Nate Atkins at right guard and a healthy Tevin Jenkins at left guard, I think Braxton Jones, he may stay at left tackle. He might go to right, but basically now you have two viable tackles. Now you have to see what you can do at center. There's discussion of Whitehair, but I think most of us, or I guess I'd speak for myself, I'd like to see somebody else, hopefully at center, somebody a little bit younger, leaner, faster, who fits the line. What was your reaction, Ryan?
I think this morning I may have texted you to say that he was my number one pick. I think that may be in a text chain. Yeah. Just some of the people that are significantly smarter than I am, talking about how he is a technician, he's a complete player, the immeasurable, like all that stuff is there. And the Bears needed offensive line. I heard a really interesting point, and I'm trying to think. I think it might have been Mully and Haw this morning, and those two guys are not necessarily my favorite guys on the planet. But a point was really well made, was that the Bears were number one in rushing, not because their offensive line was good, because it wasn't. It's because they had a dynamic, electric runner in Justin Fields. And it led a lot of people to think that our offensive line was significantly better than it was, when instead it was watch Justin Fields get outside somehow, barely escape. And I think it's the same reason why the passing numbers were so low. Dude was always running for his life. And so when you have that, I just think it screams you need an improvement in offensive line. And I agree with you. I think, Nate Davis coming in is just a guy at guard. And so I don't really think that he's anything super duper special. I don't think necessarily they're done. But I think Darnell Wright out of Tennessee, offensive tackle, Bears first pick. I think it's awesome. I'm very, very happy about it.
Yeah, the only thing I would push back on you a little bit is, and time will tell, but just having watched a little bit of Nate Atkins on film.
Davis?
What's that?
Nate Davis?
Nate Davis, I apologize. Thank you.
No worries. I got you, buddy.
I
got you. Yeah.
He's our guy.
Does he play for San Diego?
Yeah, right. So just having watched Nate Davis quite a bit on film, it's overused, but I like his motor. He looks like a quicker, more downhill type of offensive lineman. Absolutely. Who will fit in at guard pretty well. So I push back on that a little bit. I also think that the run game, while inflated by Justin Fields' numbers, was also improved last year. I thought run blocking was better last year. They played more downhill, generally speaking. Now, having said that, Wright, great last name, by the way, like one of the greatest last names. Really,
clearly.
He's a stronger pass blocker than he is a run blocker. So, we need to get much better at pass blocking. And so that helps. Do we think he's plug and play? I mean, we watched Braxton Jones struggle, but he was drafted from, the fifth round, I believe.
He's a fifth round guy out of a smaller school in Utah. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not a knock on him. I think Braxton Jones, the fact that he played 17 games, right? You have to give him some significant credit for that. He outplayed his draft position significantly, but I don't think he and Darnell Wright are in the same category.
I would agree. The other interesting thing about Wright's measurables, as I'm just pulling them up real quickly, is he's in the 91 percentile for 40 time. So even though he is a monstrous man, what is he? 330, 40 pounds. It seems like. Go ahead.
No. I think. He's 333 pounds. He's a big boy, but he's quick. He's quick for his size.
He's still got a good vertical, like 62nd percentile with his vertical, real fast still in the 40. And so I guess my only point on that is, there was a lot of talk about some of the offensive linemen like Pace Jr. that we passed up because they didn't, seem to fit the scheme. And, as we've been waiting for this draft, everything's been hashed and rehashed. So it'll be interesting. I can't wait to watch a little bit more film on Wright because I want to see if he still does fit that type that the Bears seem to be looking for, which is athletic guys who can run and who can run that zone scheme that the Bears really love.
Before we go any further, we have a little bit of a surprise. A guy that he's been on the podcast before, but I don't know if anyone remembers him, even though he's in the intro. It's Logan Bradley, everybody. Logan Bradley, you still are alive. Your mustache, it's kind of coming through. So it's good to see you, buddy.
I accidentally shaved it a few days ago. I didn't mean to. I'm not going to lie to you. Went to do a small trim, but God, it's good to be here. It's been unfortunate that I haven't been able to be on. I feel like I'm cheating on you guys working for another podcast at the moment that records at the same time that you guys do. So it just feels absolutely wrong. But
Can you talk about what you're doing? I know, like when we first started this thing out, you were not super comfortable talking about your job, but I know, and we're going to talk a lot of Darnell Wright, but I just wanted to make sure, like, is that something that we can talk about? Something that we can bring it up?
No, we can. I mean, it's a baseball podcast. There you go, TJ. Yep, I'm here. I am alive. Baseball podcast called Flippin' Bats Podcast. So I don't want you to listen to any other podcast but this one. But if you were to listen to one other podcast, maybe make it that one. But I've been doing all the social media for that podcast with Ben Verlander. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been so much work, but it's been incredible. I had a cool time at the World Baseball Classic a month or two ago, and it's been an adjustment and a lot of learning. So I've missed you guys, but it's been fun.
So we got my opinion. I'm stoked. This is actually, and I think Logan, you can also attest to this, that in the group chat that this was my top pick. This is the guy that I really wanted the Bears to go and get. How do you feel about this? Just gut reaction, gut thoughts about this. We got a lot to talk about, everything surrounding it. But what do you think about Darnell Wright, the pick?
I won't sit here and pretend to know everything about Darnell Wright by any means. I think that my first reaction was that I think that I get a little bit scared as a Bears fan to see Jalen Carter go right before that and then Skoronski go right after it. And at least my brain starts imagining all these scenarios in a few months, a few years down the road where we're going, oh my God, how did we not pick X player? And instead went with this guy. But at the same time, I think about the conversations that we did have months ago last year, after the draft last year, talking about the fact that we weren't drafting players early to protect a quarterback. And that's really all I come back to if I'm trying to make myself feel good about it, which I think there's plenty of reason to feel good about this pick, is that you picked a guy where people who know a lot about the game of football are saying that he is a plug and play guy, which the NFL is all about what you can do with a quarterback who is on a rookie contract. So you have Justin Fields who's on a rookie contract. If you're picking a guy who plays a premium position, a tackle position, and he's a guy who you're confident, who you can go in and feel comfortable starting him from day one, I don't really care who that guy is. I'll trust the front office in the fact that they've got their guy. They picked a premium position, and I think that's something to really feel good about. Again, I don't think that there's a whole lot of situations where you pick an offensive lineman in the first round of the NFL draft and people are just losing their minds being excited about it. It's always going to seem kind of boring. So scared, but at the same time, I think that there's a lot of reason to be happy with that pick.
Let's talk Jalen Carter. Anyone that listens to this podcast knows that we have talked about him too much, and knows that there's a pretty strong near consensus that we weren't Jalen Carter people. I'm really excited that he's going to the Eagles. And Logan, to your point, I don't think anyone can deny his talent. I think it was consistency, all the stuff surrounding it. And, the thing that I said to you, bringing up that very good point, which is Eagles picking him up definitely makes you think like they clearly know what they're doing. But I will say this is that we've talked about this at length too, is this locker room, the Chicago Bears locker room, doesn't have the guys to be like, no, dude, this is the way we do things. The Eagles do. Like, there's no question that they've got enough guys in that room to say, Jalen Carter, you better step in line. This is how we do things. We're not going to do things another way. This is an inexperienced locker room. I think Ryan Poles absolutely hit one out of the park. The only thing I'm upset about is the compensation. Why moving down, you got a fourth rounder next year, but I want to let you guys chime in on the Jalen Carter situation.
No, like that was something that I really didn't like fully think about before you had said it, Dangle. It's true. You have a situation there where you have a lot of veteran players who, Connor, it's great to see you as well, my friend. But yeah, no, I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head there. And again, going back to like previous conversations, as a person who is coming in and hasn't been on this podcast too much recently, I just remember constantly the conversations that I brought up, the fact that the Bears culture just isn't and hasn't really been there for a while. And I think that is changing, and I think it's going in a good direction. I think Poles is doing a good job, but so far, I don't think that there's too much of a reason to not trust Poles. So if he didn't believe that Carter was, one, a fit culturally, and two, as a football player, then I don't have any other choice but to trust that was probably his thinking as well. And you have to build that culture and build it with veterans that maybe the Bears don't have right now.
I gotta say, it'll be interesting as we've learned more and more about the trade down from one and the behind the curtains nuances of the DJ Moore add in. I will be really interested to see what the reporting looks like in the wake of this draft, because I mean, even just when we did our online our live draft during the pod this past Sunday, we are clearly not Ryan Poles, but you get to 9 and you look at what's on the board and you think about what the Bears' needs are, and you realize that Jalen Carter is a real possibility, just talking even in the mock world. So I'm thinking, just projecting here, that possibly, I mean, I think Pace probably knew that was going to be where he'd be, that it was very potentially going to be a Jalen Carter decision. They did their due diligence. They went down, they watched him work out. They had him in the building. And I think they ultimately decided that was not the route that they wanted to go. So I think that there's a very good possibility that there's some maneuvering that we're not aware of yet, that we will be, that allowed them in what I think could have been a very sticky situation. Like, I think you can't swing and miss. You can't strike out with this pick. You got to at least hit at least a double, which, Logan, we don't see many of those as White Sox fans. But If you were a fan of another baseball team that was any good, you get my point. So
we can't take over this podcast because Jack, I will go off, and I can't do that right now.
We'll cry and it'll be bad. But anyway, I don't know. I just think like that again, I believe he maneuvered himself well. to be able to move down. He leveraged the first pick. He leveraged the 9th pick. I could see where if over time Jalen Carter starts to pop and excel, you look at that. Of course, you would look at that and go, wow, we traded out a 9, passed up on Jalen Carter, who's a Pro Bowler, and got a 4th round pick in the 24. You know, that could age terribly. I could see that. But I
so hold up, really quick, boys. Just a little bit of news for those that are not watching their phones. Like we're trying to. Packers have picked Lucas Van Ness from Iowa, and not Jackson Smith-Njigba. That's a choice. They just don't like taking wide receivers in the first round. So, Logan, I have been dying to ask you this question because I feel like you're always just more clued into this stuff. What's the biggest surprise of the draft? Maybe it's Jalen Carter falling. I mean, I know who I think it is, but I'm really curious. Like the Texans getting picks 2 and 3 back to back. You know, like that's crazy. What do you see it being?
I mean, I do think that it's the Texans being 2-3. And maybe it was recently, I'm just completely oblivious, but like when's the last time a team had 2 picks in the top 3 of the draft? Like there's been a few drafts, and to see something that strange and kind of rare at the top. But my initial instinct when that did happen, because normally you're like, man, oh my God, this team like knows what they're doing. And now maybe all of a sudden this is a team to be scared of. And I don't feel that way because it's the Texans. And I think of them in a similar way as I think I do the Bears at times. And then I also see the CJ Stroud pick. And I don't think that it's entirely fair to just do the whole, like, this guy's from this school and he plays this position, so therefore he's not going to pan out. I think CJ Stroud could potentially be a very good quarterback. But at the same time, being an Ohio State quarterback and seeing the history that they've had there, I'd be a little bit scared, but you have to take that shot if you're going to. Otherwise, for me, it's also just Bijan Robinson going in the top 10. Again, he's a phenomenal running back, I'm sure, but you even saw a guy like Saquon Barkley, who he was picked very high. He was picked higher than 8, I think, 2 or 3 or something like that. But he's even had a pretty good career. I mean, he had one injury year where he tore his ACL, but he's had a great career and he's been an elite running back. And still, I don't think that it's a situation where if you would ask a Giants fan, they probably wouldn't say it was entirely worth it. There are probably other players that they would have gone for. So I'm always just so intrigued by teams still to this day with the track record of running backs, still taking running backs early, especially a team like the Falcons who feel like the Bears, where they have all these different needs, yet they go for this kind of luxury pick. So it's just always interesting to see a running back taken early.
Though you got to think Zeke in his first couple of years in Dallas, like that guy was unreal, but yeah, now he's done. Like he's done.
And again, like I was interested to see where Robinson was going to go, because if he went to a team like the Eagles or something like that, I think I would have understood it more, where it's a team where they know they're going to contend right away. But like, are the Falcons going to really be contending unless Desmond Ridder all of a sudden is just a Hall of Fame quarterback right off the bat? So that was kind of confusing to me.
Jack, do you have a biggest surprise? Same one, maybe Anthony Richardson going to number 4, going to the Colts.
Just a little bit on Bijan, and when we talked a little bit about David Haugh making a plug for Bijan, being selected by the Bears, and I just thought that was really odd. I think Logan, you made a lot of excellent points, and to me the bottom line is that in today's league, if you draft a running back high and he hits, then you have to pay him. And the longevity is going to be an issue no matter what. I mean, Zeke is the test case. And what we're seeing now is instead of going, for high draft picks with running backs, or the teams that are good, the KCs, the Philadelphia Eagles, the Bills, they're finding running backs deeper in the draft. They're developing running backs. Those running backs seem to be interchangeable. They can catch and run and block. And it's almost just like this constant rotation and process. And I can see the beginning of the Bears doing that really, with Herbert and what they've done in free agency. And I guarantee they're going to take it back. Well, I shouldn't guarantee, but I'd be surprised if they don't take a running back somewhere in this draft. Richardson is fascinating. I've heard people say that
blows my mind.
If all the boxes like click, that he's like one of the best, most dynamic generational talents in the draft in a decade, more or more. But I've also heard he's just, Lamar Jackson, I think in a lot of ways changed the game. When he was coming out of college, it was, is he going to be a running back? Are they going to put him in a slot? And Baltimore put all their chips in and changed their offense and made it work in a way like we had never seen before. And now we're seeing similar types of vibe with our Chicago Bears. And so, for that to work with Richardson, I think it's going to perhaps take a little bit longer for what I've heard the pundits say, because he doesn't necessarily score out in the same ways in terms of the polish that some of the other guys that I just alluded to.
Did you guys see what the Lions just did at 12?
No.
They picked running back Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama, which is that it goes along with my point, but they just added Dave Montgomery and they have DeAndre Swift.
Yep.
Why? I mean, that's way more confusing than going Bijan Robinson at 8 to me. You're using that amount of capital on a running back when you just signed David Montgomery and you have DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, I don't know.
That makes no sense. I think everyone was applauding them for they're getting as many picks as they got, but that's a head scratcher to say the least. Boys, we got company. I think we should bring in the one, the only Brendan Shagru, the assistant editor of Bears Wire. Brendan, we are very, very excited to hear your opinion on Darnell Wright's selection. Just as a quick recap, I am thrilled with it. Jack's pretty excited about it. Logan's pretty excited about it. Not in love with the compensation to move down a pick. That one is a big head scratcher for me. We're also pretty much a consensus, not at all sad that they passed on Jalen Carter. Brennan, walk us through, how are you feeling about things?
I am whelmed. I'm whelmed. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm not underwhelmed. I'm just kind of like, okay, that was a very safe pick. You expected the Bears to be able to get him trading down, which they did. I too am very upset with the lack of compensation. I was getting mad at you because I was trying to stay off Twitter and everything, and people are texting me what the compensation was, and they said, "Oh, 4th round pick," and I'm like, "All right, that kind of sucks, but it is what it is. At least we get another 4th this year." And they're like, "No, a 4th next year," and I'm just like, "You got to be kidding me." So that was tough. I understand it's only one spot. And maybe that just goes to show how bad of a GM Ryan Pace is, because thinking about the haul that the Bears got or gave up to get Mitchell Trubisky a few years ago, that's kind of tough to swallow, even if it's higher up in the draft. But I will say Darnell Wright is, like I said, I think he's a safe pick. I wished that Paris Johnson Jr. would have fallen. That was my guy. That was the guy I was truly in love with for this team. And so to get Darnell Wright, I think as a consolation prize is still really good. He's somebody who is a plug and play starter, probably on the right side. So that kind of means the Bears at this very moment are going with Braxton Jones on the left side. We'll see if that changes later on in the draft. But yeah, I'm okay with it. I'm just like, yeah, we needed that. Cool. What else you got?
Just really quick, Brendan, because you brought it up. Ryan Dangle on Facebook, April 27, 2017, right after Mitch Trubisky is picked. Ryan Pace, you are an idiot. So just gonna put that out there.
We'll never forget sitting next to you, Dangle.
Yeah,
Logan, I miss you so much.
Brendan,
I'm sorry I didn't get to say hi to you. We just jumped in.
No, you're good. You're good.
Brendan, one more real quick question. Biggest surprise of the draft, not related to the Chicago Bears. So we've talked a little bit about Houston getting 2-3. We talked a little bit about Anthony Richardson. What's your biggest surprise thus far?
That's a good question. I think that the Houston thing was wild. And I know Daniel Jeremiah in his mock draft had them double dipping at number 2 and number 3, but it's a mock draft the day before the draft, even if it is somebody as plugged in as Daniel Jeremiah. So I was kind of like, okay, whatever. And then the fact they actually pulled it off, I think was insane. So that was it. I was a bit surprised by Anthony Richardson, but I had gotten some intel about a week ago that said Will Levis could really fall. And so I put a decent amount of money on that.
What? Tell me this, Brendan. I mean, I want to bet too.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was afraid that you were behind the couch in a fetal position because your White Sox were so bad you didn't want to talk to the world. Okay.
I know nothing about baseball, and I know that they're terrible. Sorry,
Logan, it's easy. All you have to do is bet the Tampa Bay Rays against the White Sox. I took everything. I took
the joke's on you, Brendan. I want the Sox to lose by 1 million runs now.
What's that?
No, I'm not taking this podcast over. Nope.
Okay.
Nope. I know.
Okay.
I know.
Then the other one that, I was going to say Anthony Richardson, and then this Jahmyr Gibbs 12, the Lions, just that is a head scratcher to say the least.
Lions.
They're getting applauded left and right for all these picks that they're picking up, and then that's the one that you go with at 12. That doesn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't get that one whatsoever.
Yeah, I was so shocked. And especially that they paid David Montgomery. I know they're not the biggest fans of DeAndre Swift, but still, like, why would you do that?
That's what I was saying. It doesn't make any sense to use that capital on a running back when you already have a couple other running backs. We'll just never. That's like, it's very Lions. Lions were like, we're doing a few too many smart things. Let's do something really stupid and waste our 12th pick.
You know what? You know what they might call that, Logan? I think they're gambling on him.
Oh, okay. Nope, still mad at you, Brendan.
All right. So Logan, Brendan, Jack, is there a position? Is there a player that you're thinking now Bears have to target in the second round? They've got to go and get that's really just sitting saying this has got to be the guy, or this has got to be the position that you go after in the next round. So this one, let's go Brendan, Logan, Jack, and I will finish it up.
Yeah, defensive line, 3 technique, really. Yeah. Now that you passed on Jalen Carter, and yeah, we really didn't talk about like passing on Carter. I understand the risks, and I was still kind of like mostly out on it, especially considering the Bears didn't have the locker room to support him. The Eagles sure as hell do, especially with all the former Georgia teammates. They know how to handle.
We did talk about that pretty extensively before you hopped on.
Sorry. Yeah, I know. I just wanted to get my 2 cents in. But that still means the Bears need a 3 technique. Guys like Keanu Benton. We'll see where somebody like Elijah Cansey goes. I mean, maybe he's already gone. I don't know. I don't have the draft on in front of me. But yeah, definitely a 3 technique on the line. It has to be one of those first 2 picks. Yeah, that's my biggest need right now.
Yeah, the latest pick is Broderick Jones from the Pittsburgh Steelers. To the Pittsburgh Steelers from Georgia. The Green Bay Packers selecting Lucas Van Ness out of Iowa. And as we said a little bit earlier, number 12 is Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama. And then Peter Skoronski, Northwestern, going to the Titans. I think that's a slam dunk pick for them. So I'm excited for them.
Before I answer, real quick, Logan, I think you had said, like, when's the last time someone had 2 picks in the top 10, which I thought was like a fascinating question. Is that what you asked? I believe
I said top 3, but really
top 3. Okay,
yeah.
The other thing close was like in 18. The Browns they took Mayfield at 1, and then they took Denzel Ward at 4. Yeah. So I think that's about as close. In 2000. The Washington football team took LeVar Arrington at linebacker with number 2 and offensive tackle Chris Samuel with the number 3 pick overall.
Interesting. So pretty non-extensive history of that happening.
It is rare. You get some 3s and 6s and 2s and 5s. Last one, and then we can move on. But in 92, the Colts had the first and second pick.
Jeff George?
No, number 1 defensive lineman Steve Entman, and number 2 linebacker Quentin Coryatt.
Oh, so who could forget those 2 picks?
I know, right?
Man.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I would be okay with either edge rusher or 3 technique. Now, I think edge rusher appears to me to be pretty deep, and so there might be a little bit more scarcity when it comes to a 3 tech, and so I could see that there would be a need to prioritize that. Do we have any sense that he would trade down again to try to get into that pick zone that we've talked about before, that we don't seem to have any picks, or do you think they will most likely use their pick?
At that point, you have to trade up, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
because their
you're
next
right.
pick isn't until
Yes.
the 60s. No, 50.
Yes.
I'm sorry, it's 53.
Yes.
Yeah, so you would want to move up to like the late 30s or early 40s.
So I wonder if they take that 4th pick they just got, or they take any other collateral, and if they move up and try to find somebody that they think is a better 3 tech than what's going to be there for them when they pick.
Yeah, I
That
don't
one
think that
fourth pick.
I don't think that there's any other answer here other than just defensive line. Like, I can't say too much more what you guys didn't say, but just the beginning of last year, going into the year, that was the most talent depleted position is just defensive line for the Bears. And you got rid of Robert Quinn. So it's like, who at this point is rushing the passer, which, yeah, it's defensive line. I hope they take multiple shots.
I was just about to say that you could do a couple positions: defensive line, defensive end, defensive tackle. They need help there really, really bad. Boys, I just want to, our friends at Roar of the Lions are jumping up and down how excited they are about the pick that they made at 12.
What?
I am going to be very anxious to talk to them about that one.
Yeah, I was say it's one of those situations where it's like, I mean, I'd love to hear the reasoning. I don't know. Maybe there's something I'm missing.
I don't think there was not a position of need for them in terms of like, a priority.
They addressed it,
especially again when they went out to get David Montgomery. I don't get it. Logan, just really quick, Devin Witherspoon, out of the University of Illinois, your alma mater. How are you kind of feeling about that pick?
I mean, that's really cool. It just seems like he is a guy who has a super high ceiling, and in the Big Ten. Big Ten, I guess, isn't known for like having ridiculous skill position players, but he's gone up against some good wide receivers in his time, and it's definitely cool to see Illinois football, at least from my perspective, finally like doing some good things. Like, they had a decent season last year, are producing some NFL talent, so that's huge for personally the program and everything. But yeah, I hope he does well in Seattle.
Boys, is there anything else that we want to talk about before getting out of here? We talked about how we feel about the pick. We talked about what's coming up next. Anything else that you boys want to address that we want to chat about before we get out of here?
Who's going to be the biggest bust of the top 10?
We should all take bets right now.
Mm-hmm. That's a great question.
Since I asked it, I don't have an answer for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it feels like the obvious pick. No. I'm going to go CJ Stroud. I think Ohio State continues their history of not having good quarterbacks, and I think he's not good. Simple.
I'm gonna hope that it's Jalen Carter, which is it's way meaner than I usually am, because I would, generally speaking, I'd like to see all of these young men have great success. But I feel like the opposite story, the opposite narrative, makes it pretty difficult.
TJ agrees with you
to swallow. Yeah.
Brendan, what are you thinking about that one?
I'm not gonna lie, I missed the question because my computer is going into a scan. So my internet once again
of the
garbage. Did you sick the bad internet gods on me?
Pay out for some better internet.
Yeah, I think it's because your video about Bears draft fans went viral today.
Dude,
so
awesome.
so your internet is paying you back or something.
That's
along those
why.
lines.
Yeah.
I
said, did you screw me over with bad internet? Because you used to be the guy. Now I'm the guy.
Used to be the guy, but I'm not that guy anymore. So you know what? So I'm going to make my selection. Well, and give it back to Brennan. Who do we think is one of the top picks that is going to be probably the biggest bust? I'm just like trying to think about the Houston Texans, man. They make me nervous because they don't know what they're doing, but both of those players just seem pretty spectacular. I've been saying to almost everybody this whole week, anyone that would listen, don't be surprised if Anthony Richardson makes it into the top 10. Don't be surprised. I didn't think he was going to make it to 4. I'm going to just say Anthony Richardson. I just don't. He's got all the physical gifts. So did was it Jamar Russell? Oakland. Jamarcus Russell. Sorry about that. When he was picked by the Raiders, had every intangible you could possibly imagine. I just wonder just a little bit. We'll see.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Jack.
I'll let you answer. Then I have another a different question, please.
Okay. It's the boring answer, but it is CJ Stroud. Not necessarily like who he is as a prospect, because I do think he has really good upside. Part of the issue could be that those cognitive tests, can't say that word, that he unfortunately didn't do too well in. But also just going to the Houston Texans, that feels like a death sentence at this point. I understand they have new coaches. Nick Caserio is still the GM. I just don't like the weapons they have around him right now. It's a bad situation, unfortunately. So I just don't like where he's at.
I was gonna ask who gets traded first. Do you think? Is it D-Hop, Dalvin Cook, Trey Lance, or other?
They got to be ready to get Trey Lance out of San Francisco already. Yeah. So I lean that way. It's like, what are they doing with him?
Yeah, I mean, the Vikings pick. Let's see, where do the Vikings pick? They pick 23rd.
That sounds right to me.
Yeah. So I wonder if a move gets made with Cook there or not. I'm sorry, 24th. So
I'm gonna go other. I'm gonna say DeAndre Swift.
Okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I would.
I mean, why would you pay? Yeah, why would you pay decent money for a running back in free agency and then take one with a top 15 pick? You've kind of seen the coaching staff. They already don't really like him. He's entering the final year of his deal, right? Yeah, because he was a second round pick in 2020. Yeah. I bet they try to get some for him.
Interesting.
Man, I don't know if I can comment after that. I mean, that was incredibly well said. Boys, what do we think? Anything else that we want to wrap up? Okay, let me ask this question before we get out of here. Do you think there's any way that Ryan Poles decides to come back into the first round to get another guy? What do we think?
I don't think so, because I think he just values the accumulation of picks at this point still. Like, we still just need a number of picks, and I don't think that there's like one guy at this point where I'm like, I think he's got, well, I mean, JSN, I guess, is still there, but like, how many picks do you want to give up to get him? So I don't think that it's a possibility.
I agree with
I don't think so.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So with that being said, then it is time to get out of here, boys. Any shout outs that need giving? Just quick.
You guys, shouting out all of you guys. I truly don't deserve to have my name on the intro at this point because of how little I've been on this. And I speak for, I think, any listener of the show when I say that, like, what you guys have done with this over the year now, 1 year plus, is truly amazing. You guys are incredible and just awesome work.
I would shout out Brendan. Brendan won the day today. He broke the internet. If you haven't seen it yet, check it out. The different. What did you title it, Brendan?
Each type of what did I title it? I don't remember. The different types of, I think it was, hold on, I pinned it. The types of Bears fans who will watch the NFL draft this week.
There you go. Yeah. So really funny. Make sure you check that out. And then shout out to that guy who called Waddle and Sylvie.
Yes.
Put the White Sox on blast. Maybe one of the best calls I have ever heard on any sports talk radio show ever. I mean, awesome.
Sell the team. Sell the team. Sell the
dumpster fire. Shit show. Bad.
I just want to shout out Jack Wright, Brendan Shagrew, and Patrick Sheldon for picking up the slack when I was not able to make it this past week. They did a phenomenal job. It was a highly entertaining episode, and you should go back and you should check it out. Folks, if you are watching on YouTube, come check us out on the audio, right? Maybe you want to go back and listen to some old episodes while you're driving your car. If you could, give us a review, say some nice things about us online. We would appreciate that. Share it with a friend. Jack, you got something else to throw out there, yes?
Well, I just wanted to make sure that you mentioned who we have on in the wake of the draft on Sunday.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Brennan, that's your guy. So why don't you talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, it's Jacob Infante, just one of the great draft analysts. He's blowing up. He just hit 35,000 followers today, which is insane. Dude just does incredible work for Windy City Gridiron. He let me make fun of him in the video I made, so that's even better. So yeah, it should be really fun, and it'll be great to react to the actual final selections. We don't have to mock anything anymore.
Oh, I'm so happy about that. No more arguing about who they're gonna take. No, it's time to talk about who they have taken, and they've taken Darnell Wright, and I'm very, very happy about that. Folks, I didn't get to say this at the end of the last episode. I am so damn thankful for all of you who listen, subscribe, interact with all of us. 1 year here at the Bear Down Chicago podcast, and it has just been such a blast. And we're just so thankful for all of you. If you like what you hear, hit like, hit subscribe. You know the deal, folks. Please help us out. So for Logan Bradley. Yes, Logan Bradley. He's here. His face. You can see his face right now. Logan Bradley, Brendan Shagru, Jack Wright, Patrick Sheldon. I am Ryan Dangle, folks. Thank you so much. And as always, folks, bear down, Chicago. And this is where I play the outro music.
See you guys.